Okay, what advice do you have for parents regarding furloughs? Length of furloughs, preparing for furloughs?
I think when your child is preschool age or stuff like that, it's not so important, the length of furloughs or how often they are. I think whatever works in there is fine. But I think once a child reaches school age, it's very important that they have a furlough that is at least encompasses a whole school year. And I've done this because my parents did that, and it really added to my self-confidence. So even though I had 4th grade and 9th grade only, by the time I graduated, I felt like I understood a little bit more about how America worked. And I think 9th grade was really crucial because I was already in high school, and I didn't have a driver's license or a checkbook, but I had friends who did, and I kind of saw how it works and what was expected, so it wasn't as scary to me. And I went through the whole school year, and I knew them, and I invested, and they invested into me. When we had shorter furloughs, or when I noticed people shorter furloughs, it's like the kids, because we did well where we came back for summer only. Summer is not normal American life, and kids need to see that. They need to see what it's like day in and day out, whether they go to a Christian school or a public school. I don't care. I just feel like it's just one of my soapboxes. And when I've talked to other MKs who have had a variety of backgrounds, some who had short furloughs and some who had the year furloughs, every one of them, no matter what their experiences is, still said the best thing to do is to do like the whole year furlough, or at least like a 10-month furlough, that the whole school year is there. And again, I guess it goes back to, my children have told it, went back to that they felt like they understood that it's a sacrifice. It's not easy for any missionary man or woman to leave their work for that significant amount of time, but it just showed them, it was back to that balance I talked about earlier, where they need to feel like that they're not totally being sacrificed, that they have some choices. Like my kids felt like because Glenn and I made those sacrifices for the whole school furlough here, then they were willing to give us other grace in other areas, and where maybe they could have been resentful, because they felt like that was for them. They understood that coming back for the whole year gave them that stability and gave them that whole experience of what it would be like to be American for a whole year.
And as parents, I know it was definitely a sacrifice to leave for that long. I can imagine. I'm just thinking. But did it actually give you guys a chance to actually get some rest on furloughs? Because I also am concerned for parents that do these little 2 or 3 month ones all the time. They're constantly running. Did it give you a little bit more chance to do that?
Yeah, because you have your moments of constantly running still, especially when you first come back and just before you leave again. But it does give you some normalcy. Like we lived in Southern California, and it was nice for us then to be able to have okay, the certain days get out of school, so we're going to go to the beach on these days. Where we could just have our own friends, meet them for places. It wasn't always about ministry meeting people, It was very significant that, to have our own friends that weren't even necessarily from the churches or from our families, that we would meet in our neighborhoods, and just, that goes back to that whole staying healthy as a mom myself. It gave me strength again and refreshment, so that when I did go back out there again, I could give again to others.
Because I've heard some missionaries say, like, in hindsight, after they've done the 2 or 3 month thing, that whenever they go back to the field, they're exhausted. They go back to the field exhausted.
Yes. Yeah, you go back to the field exhausted, and and I think it's also okay for you to leave to come and do a short term, like just a family visit, and not have to see all your churches if you do come back. Like, let's say you do have, I had a brother who got married, and so we did come back one Christmas. And we just did family stuff. I didn't see all my friends. I didn't, from previous years, I didn't see all of our churches and things like that. But you need to know there is an expectation from most of your supporters in churches that if you're on the same side of the world as them, they would like to see you. And that's so once in a while to not see them is fine, but I think your norm needs to be to see them. Well, then that puts you back in that exhaustion and busyness and that kind of stuff. So, and that's what's nice about when you do have a year, is it relaxes everybody. Not everyone has to see you right then and there, and like then you can actually see them, and it can be simple things like, let's just take our kids out to the park, and so much nicer. There's so many positives about a whole year of furlough, and with the only negative being the whole like trying to find someone to to stay in your house for the year and leaving your ministry. Those seems to be the two big, financially keeping your stuff and storing your stuff for the year, like that. Which God is much bigger than that. He can figure that out. And I mean, in all of this, there is no right and wrong, because God's also bigger than year furloughs. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have the opportunity to do year furloughs, I'm just trying to give you ideals, because I still believe that God can take our mistake. My opinion is go for the year furlough. And I think often for the man, when he steps aside, it also helps the local leaders to come up a little bit more, and it gives them more self-confidence. There's a lot of good that can happen. Or you can see that as soon as you left, something totally fell flat. Well, then it makes you have to look at it and go, well, maybe that was just a program that you had started and it really wasn't needed. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said by stepping out of the ministry for a little bit and coming back to it and seeing, it's like there's some reality checks there. And then you can say, okay, you know what, that was just a Wendy-driven thing. That wasn't God-driven. And now I can, now let's see what, maybe I got in the way there. And now God show me what ministry I need to have been doing instead of that. You know what I mean? I think it's actually very healthy, even for the ministry.
That's great.